So I'm going to talk to you today about snare drum rudiments. And rudiments are kind of like the building blocks of snare drum playing, and they're kind of like the scales, because like other instruments play scales to develop their many different things. So rudiments are kind of that for snare drum. There are actually 40 rudiments that they are now kind of standardized. We're not going to talk about all of them. And basically, they are all built off of maybe 5 or 6 different strokes. So we've got, we'll go over those. The single strokes, just one hand each. Single strokes, and then double strokes. And then something called flams. We have one low note, one high note. Roughs or drags. And then we have buzz strokes as well. So basically, all the rudiments can boil down to those, I think that was 5 different strokes. So first of all, let's talk about these basic strokes. Well, the single and double are pretty obvious. We'll talk about the double stroke roll in another video probably. But the flam, we have a main note and a grace note. So the main note comes right on the beat, and the grace note comes right before the beat, and is also softer than the main note. So it sounds like this. So this would be considered a left flam, since my left hand is the high note. This would be a right flam. You notice how I'm preparing each one of them so they get set before I play it. So even if I play them fast, I'm still getting that set position. That helps you get them to be consistent in the right balance of the high note and the low note, the main note and the grace note. And you want them to be close together so it sounds like one note. You don't want it too far apart. That doesn't sound very good. You also don't want it at the same time. Doesn't sound very good, doesn't feel very good. So you want that main note high. There's a range of good flams. They can be fairly wide. That's about as wide as you get. You can get them really tight too. Right, those are maybe a little too wide at the end, but you kind of get the idea. There's a range. You want to be able to get them real consistent. And when you play them softly, kind of the same idea. Where you want one note higher, but it's going to be not quite as big a difference. Okay, so there are different ways to practice flams. The basic flam that they have you practice is alternating, but the first thing you want to do is just be able to get one hand consistently. So, whichever hand's easier. For me, it was always left flam. Some people it's the right flams. Left and right hand, it doesn't really matter. Eventually, you want to do both. So you try all one hand. Do a bunch like that. Right? And then a bunch the other hand. And then alternating. That's more difficult because you have to think about the heights of the sticks. But it can be done. So you start slow and work up to get faster. The next rudiment is called a flam tap. So what you're doing is you're doing flams, but doing double strokes after that. So you have a flam, then a single stroke. So flam, tap, and then but you do like a right, left, right, left. So it sounds something like this. So I should also explain. Often when you do rudiments, I mean it's good to just do them slowly, consistent tempo. But also practice them starting slow and gradually getting faster and then coming back to slow again. They call it open to close to open. So this is what the flam tap would sound like. like that. Maybe without the little rim that I hit in the middle there. So that's a flam tap. I think that's a very useful rudiment. The other flam rudiment that I find very useful, there's a couple more, but the next one that I find useful is the flam accent. So that when you're alternating triplets like this, but you're flamming where I was accenting. All right, so those those are really useful. I think you just having a couple, even just these two stickings, the flam tap and the flam accent, makes it so that when you see a flam in music, you don't necessarily play the rudiment. You can, but it just gives you facility to play those flams just in the midst of whatever you're doing in concert band. Of course, they're also, if you're playing rudimental music, marching music, those are like written in there, so they're important for that as well. There's another sticking for that same rhythmic pattern, the triplets with the flam on the downbeat, and it's called a Swiss triplet or a Swiss Army triplet. And this one is, the main sticking is right, right, left, right, right, left, right, left. Okay? And so that looks like this. You flam the first one. And I love the feel of that. And that's consistent. You could start left hand too. Yes, that maintains a consistent rhythm. You're not alternating like you were on the flam accents. Another couple, well, maybe we'll get to those later, because we haven't talked about, well, I'll talk about it now, but there's a flam paradiddle. We'll talk about paradiddle in a minute, but it looks like this. And the flamacue. It's got that little accent in there that's kind of a unique to the flamacue. All right, so those are the flam rudiments. Let me talk about the rough or the drag. Drag is kind of very specific to this first one. There's two grace notes and a main note. Roughs can be, you can have 2 grace notes, 3 grace notes, 4 grace notes. So that's a little more kind of a general term, the rough. But so it's kind of like the flam in that you have notes down low, but this time you have exactly 2, and then you have a main note. Again, you can do both hands. And similar to the flam, you want them close enough so they sound like one unit, not at the same time. It's too close. That just doesn't sound good. And if it's, that's too wide. But there is a range, so pretty wide, pretty tight. So there's that range of those those roughs. And again, when you're practicing these, start with all one hand. Try the other hand. Again, this one's going to be easier than the other. And then, if you're practicing the actual rudiments, you're alternating. All right. And then, this is one of my favorite names of rudiments is the Rudiments. And a lot of these names of them, either like the flam, the rough, the paradiddle, the Rudiments, they're named for how it sounds. So like a flam, flam. Rough is like if you roll your R, rough. Paradiddle, paradiddle. And the Rudiments is like this. Rudiments. So single Rudiments, it's just a rough, and then it's a triplet after that. And of course, there's a little space between each one. And you're just alternating strokes after the rough. And then you have a double Rudiments, you just put 2 roughs. And there's a triple Rudiments. right, and then so yeah, the Radom Q, one of my favorites. A drag actually is it's kind of a drag tap. So it's a lot like the flam tap, but you have a note after the rough. So. And those you can't do quite as fast because you have to get the two notes in there instead of just the one. I should mention what my other favorite rudiment name is called the pataflafla. This is one of the flam rudiments, and so it sounds like this, pataflafla. So two singles of the pata, and the fla-fla would be the two flams afterwards. Usually how it's played, it starts with a flam and then gets into the pata-fla-fla. So it sounds like this. So that one, anyway, it's another one. I love that one mostly because of the name. But it's kind of a little bit harder and maybe not one of the more essential ones. So let's talk about the paradiddle now. I've mentioned that already. So you have, it's para is alternating, and then diddle is with the same hand. So right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right. Okay, so it'll be like this. I'll do it slow to fast. So that's the paradiddle, and there's a bunch of variations on it. You can do a paradiddle diddle, which is you have two double strokes at the end. You can have the double paradiddle, which is two pairs of singles and then a double. And yeah, I think there's a few more of those as well. When I mentioned the flam paradiddle earlier. So those are some of the basic rudiments. And again, I'll talk about the double stroke roll and the buzz roll in another video.